Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action, and today we're back with another online battle. This is actually a ladder battle for myself. Haven't played ladder in a while, but I had some time today to get some battles in, so here we are. I also haven't played the vampire counts in quite some time, so we're here with them. We've got a bit of an old school style build with Vlad von Karstein in the center, leading the way. He's on foot since we're up against the Wood Elves. His anti-snipe ability, basically his tankiness, is what makes him very good in this matchup in my opinion. He's got the Karstein Ring for damage resistance, of course, Master of Beguilement, Arcane Conduit, Raise Dead, Invocation of Nehek, and Dance Macabre, as well as the Blood Drinker for more self-healing alongside the Hunger, and Aura of Dark Grandeur, of course, gives AoE minus leadership. It's also got, front line of zombies, second line of skeleton spears. We've got 2 Graveguard, 2 Blood Knights, a couple of Fell Bats as well. And for one more fast attack damage option, we've got these guys right here, the Chill Guys. They're pretty good against the Wood Elves, good in a multitude of matchups if you're worried about Skirmish Cav. They are a bit squishy as an ethereal unit against magic damage, so you got to be careful, especially against the Wood Elves. Against tree units like these 2 Dryads here, we'll be able to do good damage against them, so I'm going to try and avoid them as much as possible. We've got War Dancers, Wildwood Rangers, a front line of Eternal Guard here, Orion leading the way, a second line of Glade Guards with Hagbane tips for lots of poison. We've also got a Spell Singer, Lore of Shadows here, with just Penumbral Pendulum, so looking to clear out lots and lots of chaff. Very interesting. You can see the Way Watchers have already opened up. Unfortunately, the Corpse Cart advancing alongside the infantry here is going to get taken out. Granted, only about 500 points, so it's not the biggest loss in the world, but still, very good targeting from my opponent to take off the healing and those buffs early on. You can see I do rush in with the Blood Knights a little bit here, but once I discover the War Dancers and the Wildwood Rangers, I'm going to go ahead and disengage there and just swamp in with plenty of zombies and other units. Meanwhile, in the back line, you can see the Fell Bats are trying to get in here and just tie down these skirmishers temporarily until I can get back and compromise them with the heavy cavalry. But Way Watchers pulling back through the front line. You can see zombies all across the line going to be charging here. And yeah, we'll grab some sweet cinematics of the close-up as the moment of zombie impact here. Not going to be too impactful, all things considered, but they'll do a bit of damage, and yeah, we'll be able to soak some hit points there. Speaking of soaking hit points, you can see these bats have taken quite a bit of damage. We were able to form up a little bit of a gap here between the group that was in the woods and the main line of the Wood Elves here. They're a bit of a gap formed, so we shoot these Chill Guys up and through the gap, and they're now going to get into the back line, start to drag down these skirmish units. And of course, because of that chilling aura, if we go ahead and have a look here, this aura here, minus 36% speed, means that the enemy infantry won't be able to get away. These guys have been taking quite a bit of damage, so we drop a quick Invocation of Nehek just to try and heal them up a little bit, and then collapse on this back line a little bit as well, try and drag down some of these other skirmishers, get at some of these heroes. My opponent's been doing a great job dropping that Penumbral Pendulum, has racked up quite a few kills already, up to 184 with just a couple of Penumbral Pendulums, but the gap still open allows these Blood Knights to now come through and exploit as well. I put a Dance Macabre on them just to give them a bit of extra speed so they can really get back here and start to win the battle a bit more decisively, because you can see the balance power really not well in my favor at this point. The infantry battle, unsurprisingly, not going in my favor at all. Vlad is going to be able to do some good damage here, and the Graveguard will, but other than that, my units are going to get cut through very, very quickly, so bit of a rough situation. But you can see in the back line here, the Blood Knights plus the Chill Guys able to get in, compromise the Wood Elf back line, and start to mop up a lot of these expensive skirmishers, and that will tip the balance of power back in the favor of the vampire counts here. Yeah, you can see again the chilling aura is going to be very key here. These Way Watchers can fire while they're disengaging, and normally sometimes heavy cavalry, especially on the slower end, have a hard time catching them, but because the Chill Guys are so fast, even with the poison, they still, you know, with the chilling aura and everything, they have no problem catching these Way Watchers, and then allowing the Blood Knights to also follow up. So yeah, you can see the balance power pretty much tipped back even. Another very nice Penumbral Pendulum coming down the line. Spell Singer up to 205 kills, cut through a lot of the chaff, and that is going to allow a lot of these Wood Elf units to survive pretty well until the late game. Obviously, typically you see healing with the Wood Elves, but nice to see Lore of Shadows regardless. Orion had run in, tried to duel with Vlad, but Vlad, with all of his tank buffs up, outdueled Orion quite nicely. Orion, of course, doesn't have much armor, does quite a bit of damage, but yeah, do think he doesn't have the Cloak of Isha, I don't think, so a little bit of a mistake there in my opinion. You definitely want to, excuse me, have that Cloak of Isha to make Orion a little bit more tanky, but even without that, he still will take quite a bit of damage in that type of a situation. So, yeah. You can see in the back line a lot of the Way Watchers being cleaned up and routed off here in the late game, and the Chill guys have done their job. They have crumbled away at this point, just taking way too much damage, and leadership wasn't able to hold up, but they did their job of allowing the Blood Knights and other units, I guess just the Blood Knights really, and themselves to kind of clean up a lot of these expensive skirmishers in this back line, and my opponent did a great job kind of using this hill as a terrain piece blocking the one flank, had kind of this forest, which then has the edge of the map over here. Unfortunately, just the way the engagement unfolded, I was able to get a full surround on this group in the forest and trap them in for a long time, and then they were just barely able to disengage here. You can see we're forming up for a bit of a second phase of the battle here. Summoned up some more zombies just to occupy the flank here and make sure we can try and get a full surround. Again, as much as possible, you want to try and surround your opponents so they're fighting from all sides. So same thing with this Grave Guard. Rather than just blobbing straight in, we're going to pull up, make sure we fully form around and get a really nice side engagement here. You can see Orion calling in his bombardment there. Going to do some good damage, especially to the zombies, but ultimately the Grave Guard and the other elites for the vampire counts, you can see the Blood Knights in the background are just going to pummel those Eternal Guard in the background there, while the Grave Guard clean up a lot of these Dryads and the Eternal Guards here. We've also been using that Master of Beguilement on elite Wood Elf targets as well to drag down their melee attack. You can see these Wildwood Rangers down to only 4 melee attack with that Master of Beguilement up, so they're going to be doing very little to the Blood Knights and other units here. So yeah, you can see Blood Knight's going to land home a nice rear charge here, try and bail out Vlad a little bit. These War Dancers had cut through the zombies that were supporting and might have been a little bit of a danger to him. Probably not really, but yeah, Vlad definitely a very good combatant and a very good duelist, just all around solid lord. A lot of people obviously nowadays are taking the slightly overpowered, probably very overpowered actually, Bloodline Lords. You know, the Von Karstein, the Lamian, the Neckarch, the Blood Dragon, all very, very strong, but personally I'm still a fan of the old school Vampire Lords, and Vlad certainly is one that does still bring a lot to the table. He is, I think, still, out of everyone, the tankiest of all the Vampire Lords, so if you're worried about getting Lord sniped as the Vampire counts, and he's also relatively cheap. He's not super cheap, but compared to some of the other Lord choices you have, he usually rolls in about 2,000, 2,200, compared to sometimes, 3,000 or more for some of your other character choices. So, yeah, he does allow you to go reasonably wide with your army, and definitely has the safety of not being easily sniped, which certainly in a matchup like the Wood Elves is a bit of a danger. You can see at this point it's just Orion holding out there, so we'll go ahead and fast forward as he gets dragged down here by the mass of Blood Knights, and very fittingly in the end it's just the Blood Knights, Grave Guard, and Vlad holding out against Orion. And because of that lack of Cloak of Isha, my opponent's just going to go ahead, and admit defeat there. And yeah, very fun battle at the end of the day. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the Bloodline Lords. I think they're a little bit overpowered, but old school vampire counts still very powerful with the old school lords here. Vlad getting 45 kills and hardly taking any damage at all, fulfilling his role pretty much exactly. The zombies also fulfilled their role more or less exactly as intended, catching a lot of cost-effective arrows right to the face, and then soaking a lot of hit points in melee as well. Same thing with the skeleton spears, and then obviously you can see the elites are the ones that got the work done. 90 and 98 and 90 for the Grave Guard, only 39 for the Hex Rates, but still, they enabled then the Blood Knights to come in and rack up 127 and 134, riding down all these expensive skirmishers in the backline, especially the Way Watchers. That's a big, big loss. You can see the melee infantry for the Wood Elves, though, obviously getting a lot of kills. There's a lot of chaff in this army, so they were able to really rack up the kill totals, including the Spellsinger as well. But unfortunately, the skirmish units just really weren't able to take down the elites, and he didn't really have the control tools to be able to slow them down so that these melee anti-large units could really catch them. So that's why typically in this matchup, I would say the tree builds are actually extremely strong. The vampire counts really just don't have many answers to your trees, especially if you go heavy with Durthu. But even the Ancient Tree Man, the reason being is that the vampire counts anti-large armor piercing is all large themselves, and the Ancient Tree Man has expert charge defense. Durthu has charge defense against large, so things like, for example, a Terrorgeist or Blood Knights, which are really the only elite anti-large options for the vampire counts, they don't have the greatest melee stats, and they do very much rely on their charge bonus. I would say the Blood Knights more so than the Terrorgeists, but still, Terrorgeists just aren't that great against treemen in melee, and Blood Knights in general, heavy cavalry tends to struggle trying to take down them in melee as well. So without AP missiles or anything else, it really can be tough to take down the trees. So I do think a tree build in this particular matchup is well warranted. Otherwise, I would say probably just going a little bit less heavy on the infantry skirmishers. Infantry skirmishers are very hard to protect against the vampire counts because of the tools they have. You know, you've got zombie summons, you've got good heavy cavalry, chariots in the black coach. You know, you've got other very cost-effective units, so can potentially be pretty tough to protect. So in general, I recommend against bringing infantry skirmishers against the vampire counts. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.